Recently, I've been messing around with this Helios 44-2 lens. It's super cool, really interesting character, and a really cool look, so I wanted to compare it to this Sigma 50-100. $100 versus $4,000. Let's see how they compare. Starting with the character of this lens, it is super creamy. That's the first word I would use to describe this lens. It's super soft, wide open. It has a really cool look, but it almost looks like it has a half to a full stop of Pro Mist on it. By no means this is a very clinical or sharp lens. It's very creamy, very soft, but I think it gives a nice roll off on the skin tones, which is really cool. I did notice that on a few tests I did, the saturation was very normal in the middle, but as you go out, it quickly drops off and gets very desaturated. Most of the shots I couldn't really tell, but specific shots like close up, I could tell the saturation difference in my skin tone. Most notably about this lens is the bokeh and the fall off, and they kind of make me think of the Cooke Panchro full frame lenses. Panchro lenses have a really swirly bokeh. I remember we were shooting a short film and we were shooting into some trees, and the trees were just kind of meshing together in this really pretty way. And I kind of see the same thing happening in the corners of the image when you're pretty wide open. The look of this lens always makes me think of like a cutaway in a movie where they're going back in time to a better time where it's all dreamy and creamy, and like that's kind of how I see this lens. This lens flares a whole bunch, especially wide open. If you shine a light source directly into the lens, it completely overtakes the image. So I would definitely have a matte box on and controlling the flares if you do use this lens. There are nice magenta flares and these kind of swirly circular flares as well that happen when light is coming from the side of the lens, and it looks really cool in my opinion. All right, now to compare the Sigma to the Helios. All right, this is the Helios, wide open at T2, 250 ISO. This is T2.8. This is 5.6. This is T8 at 3200 ISO, low light mode. This is T11. 16 at 12,800. Here's some nice flares on the Sigmas. They're very controlled, look really nice. This is with tungsten lights going right into the lens. I want to talk about build quality real quick. I know this is a $100 lens, but this is a absolute piece of crap, and I don't know if it's this lens specifically or just all Helios 44-2s. And I also understand that they make different types of Helios 44-2. I can't tell you which one this is specifically. The front filter bit here completely fell off and we lost a screw, so we couldn't put it back on. The focus ring is very sticky in some spots, so it is hard to, have a consistent focus throw, and it kind of just doesn't feel really good. So I think constant use on set, this might not last you too long, but I guess for $100 doesn't really matter. I feel like this lens pairs well to some artistic, piece, something that can utilize the actual character of this lens. A lot of clean cut commercials and product videos, they don't want this interesting character, they just want a clean cut image, and that's why these Sigmas are so nice. I could also see this in a fashion piece, specifically used for specific shots, insert shots, maybe not a whole piece. And maybe if you did a fashion piece with this, stopping down to a 5.6 to clean it up a little bit as well. Funny enough, I've actually owned this lens, or I guess my boss has owned this lens for about a year now, and we've never used it. I think this is the first time we've used it for this YouTube video actually. So I'd love to make a project this next year incorporating this lens, and I think after using it in these tests, I've learned how useful this specialty lens is, but I've also seen it as more of a specialty lens, not something that I would use on many projects. I don't really own a lens set that would pair well with this in my opinion. I guess I own the Canon FDs, which might work well, but if I were to use the Canon FDs for a project, I'd much rather use the 50 1.4. It's just better build quality. It's sharper at 1.4 than this is at T2. And it still has beautiful flares. So I think that this is more of a specialty lens in my opinion, using it for those dreamy cutaways and things like that. Overall, for $100, this lens is really cool, and I think it's a really awesome piece to have in your kit. Pick one up, eBay, $100, nothing crazy. I think that wraps up this video. If you have any questions about this lens, my other lenses, the camera, any DPing stuff, filmmaking related, love to hear it in the comments below. I think that's it. Live your life, have fun. See you next time. Peace.